why we can't stop comparing ourselves to others, and why telling yourself to stop is one of the least effective things you can do. If you've ever closed Instagram feeling worse than when you opened it, you're not weak. You're not shallow. You're experiencing something every human brain on the planet is wired to do and has been doing for 200,000 years. The problem isn't the comparison. It's the environment the comparison is happening in. In 1954, psychologist Leon Festinger proposed social comparison theory, the idea that humans have a fundamental, innate drive to evaluate their own opinions, abilities, and status by comparing themselves to others. He didn't frame it as a flaw. He framed it as a function. In the environments humans evolved in, knowing where you stood relative to others was directly tied to survival. The higher your social rank, the better your access to food, protection, mates, and belonging. The lower your rank, the more vulnerable you were. Your brain needed to track this constantly. Comparison wasn't vanity. It was threat detection. For most of human history, this system worked within its design parameters. You lived in groups of roughly 150 people, the number anthropologist Robin Dunbar identified as the cognitive limit for stable social relationships. You compared yourself to people you knew, in contexts you understood, with information that was at least somewhat accurate. The software was running in the right environment. Then came the internet. Then came social media. And suddenly, the same 200,000-year-old comparison engine is processing millions of strangers every day. People you'll never meet, in contexts you have no real understanding of, through images and captions that were deliberately constructed for maximum approval. Your brain doesn't register the difference. It sees a status quo and responds the same way it always has. Assess, compare, update your rank. The research on what this does physiologically is striking. Upward social comparison, comparing yourself to someone you perceive as above you, triggers a measurable cortisol response. Your stress system activates. Heart rate rises slightly. Attention narrows. The brain registers a potential threat to your social standing and prepares to respond. This is the feeling you get when you see someone your age who seems further ahead, more accomplished, more at ease. It doesn't feel like information. It feels like danger. What makes social media particularly damaging is what researchers call the highlight reel effect. You are comparing your internal experience, the full unedited version including doubt, failure, and ordinary moments, to everyone else's curated external presentation. You know what your life actually feels like from the inside. You only see other people from the outside. The comparison was never fair, but the brain doesn't know that. There's also a well-documented asymmetry in how comparisons feel. Upward comparisons cause more pain than downward comparisons bring relief. Seeing someone doing worse than you rarely makes you feel proportionally better, but seeing someone doing better than you almost always makes you feel worse. This asymmetry means the net effect of most social comparison is negative, and the more you're exposed to, the more the deficit accumulates. So what actually helps? Not suppression. Research consistently shows that trying not to think about something increases its presence. What does work as context? Reminding yourself that you're seeing a performance, not a life. Limiting exposure not as a moral decision, but as a practical one. The way you'd limit any input that consistently produces a cortisol response. And redirecting comparison inward. Measuring yourself against who you were last year, not against who someone else appears to be today. Psychologists call this social comparison theory, and understanding it won't make the impulse disappear, but it will change what you do with it. If this explains something you feel every time you open your phone, subscribe. Every week I break down the psychology behind why people do what they do, because understanding the system is the first step to not being controlled by it.